Hey guys, this is the next video in our training series, Getting It Done. In this video we're going to talk about sequencing. Now, when we talk about sequencing, what we're actually talking about is laying out clips in an order on our timeline that makes some semblance of sense. Now, I've built a basic sequence here. I'm going to play it through and let you guys just see what it looks like here. We'll keep it relatively low as we play through. Here you see Lisa working at her desk. We cut into a medium shot and then a close-up. Cut back out to a medium. Lisa gets up, walks away from her desk, crosses the door. We switch to a different angle, switch to another. Yawns because she's tired. It's been a long day. And then finally she walks off. Now, I'm going to show you guys how to put together a basic sequence like this, and it's really not that hard. But in the process, I'm going to show you some tips, or give you some tips on how to do this in Final Cut X in a very efficient sort of way. Now, the first thing we're going to do is create a new project. So we have something to work with. And we'll call this Sequence 1, just for practice. And we're going to use the event Getting It Done. That's where all of our clips are in this case. Now, Sequence 1 will appear here in the event library. It also appears now on the timeline. So what we'll do is we'll go through first and see what order our clips are in. Just check out to see what we have at our disposal. Now, in this particular project, we basically have a wide-angle shot of Lisa working at her desk, medium shot, and I've already done some of the trimming, but I'm going to cancel that out so that we can talk about it. Close-up of her writing at the desk, but you'll see that I actually have shot way more of her writing than I actually probably need. Another wide angle, and this is actually her getting up from her desk and walking through the door. Now in this case, you'll notice that she actually does the same thing more than once. I've actually staged this for her to do this twice. And it should go without saying that all of this is shot with one camera, and the subject, in this case Lisa, just doing a series of actions over and over again. Here is a scene of Lisa walking out of her office and into the workroom, working into the workroom and toward the camera, standing at the copier, copying a sheet of paper, and walking off. Now in this one, I also have her standing and staring at the copier if I want to use that. Now I have this reverse angle where she yawns. And those are the clips I'm going to use to make my sequence. Now, as I said, in this we actually want to put these together in a way that makes sense and seems like it flows seamlessly from one angle to the next, as if we were actually just switching between cameras, when in reality we are using only one. Now, the things that I want you to keep in mind are that what we don't want to do is bring down an entire clip and then trim it up down on the timeline. That is a very slow and arduous process of editing. What we want to do is we want to make rough cuts and then clean it up later on. Now, we do rough cuts by finding the places we want to start and stop and do what's called marking in and marking out. If you were to use the actual menu options, it would be set range start and set range in. I like to use the term marking in and marking out because it's more of an industry standard term, and mark in is I, mark out is O on your keyboard. So let's do this. We see that she's staring at the wall, and we want to get it right before she turns, and we want to mark out as soon as she starts writing. So we find she turns right there, we move up, and we mark in, I on your keyboard. You'll notice that the selection starts right there. We move in, she starts writing, and we mark out, O on your keyboard, and we've made our selection. Once we've made our selection, we move it down, drop it into our timeline, and move on to the next clip. Do the same thing. We want to find her writing, and just get mark in, mark out, drag it down. And what we get looks like this. What this is what's called matched action. I'm going to zoom in so you can see this. Matched action means that what we see in this first clip from this first angle matches the action we see going on in the second clip from the second angle. They were done at different times, but by editing it together, we create action that appears to be unbroken. Now we do this with our next clip. We want to, we actually want to cut into a close-up here. So if we want to cut into a close-up, what we can do is find a nice angle. I've already got this one selected. We'll drag it down, and we can actually layer clips as well. So if we wanted this to actually go her writing, we see what she's writing, cuts back out, and then maybe we want to cut back out again to a wide shot. Now, once we've put items on the timeline, we haven't destroyed anything, and we can add to our timeline sequence anytime we want by simply grabbing an end and extending it out. We can also extend the front to give ourselves a little bit of extra time, just like that. There it is. So we cut in, see what she's writing, cut out, and then let's see, in this clip, she may be at the desk, she gets up and walks to the door. Now in this case, I've had her do this twice. We want to make as much matched action as possible. In this case, she's staring at the camera, which is not good, because up here, she's actually looking down at her paper. In order to create matched action, we would want her looking at the paper in this shot, then getting up and walking through the door. So in this case, I've selected when she's actually looking at the paper and walking through the door. Now you'll notice that when I marked out here, I marked out as close to the point when she crosses the door frame as possible, because in this next clip, we know that we're going to have her exiting the door frame right about there. So we come in, mark out right about here, drag that down, drop it off. In the next one, we get right as she crosses, mark in, and again when she hits that door frame, right about there, and drop it off. Now we get this. She walks, crosses, and we continue doing this. If I were to just exit this stuff out, we go in and say she's at the door frame, mark in, she's about at the copier, mark out, drag that down, and we continue to drop these pieces into place. And I've already cut these up, so I've prepared these in advance. This one is a bit long because we're actually going to do some layering here. So we see that she walks up to the printer, and oh, that's not quite right. She's not actually in motion here. So again, we can grab the end and fine-tune it to make it look like she's still in motion. There we go. Now, all of this is very slow. What we want to do is add what's called a cutaway. A cutaway is a good way of actually causing a break in the action that kind of compresses time. So what you see here is a cutaway of her yawning. Now, what we can do is find a place where the action basically stops, and then use what's called the blade tool. I believe we've already mentioned this here. Cut move back to the selection tool, and move the cutaway close to that cut. Now that we've created a cut in this lower level, we can actually shrink and condense time. You can see it changing up at the top. And this is what we get. So she picks it up and she leaves. Now this is a rough cut of a sequence, but you can see it doesn't take long marking in and marking out to get through a fairly simple sequence of events. Now, we're going to talk about more tools later on to kind of help you out, but the final one to talk about here is what's called the trim tool. The trim tool. Now, as I said before, with the select tool, you can do things like extend one clip or shrink it down, extend another clip or shrink it down. But what if I simply wanted to move this cut? I could do that with the trim tool, and actually move where the cut occurs. I also, if I wanted to tweak what was in the actual box, for example here, if it wasn't quite what I wanted, I could actually select with the trim tool this clip, and you'll see that the box that appears in the viewer shows me where this clip begins and where this clip ends. Now I can actually move it right or left to adjust where this clip begins and ends without actually retiming it in any way, shape, or form. This is a hugely helpful tool as you go forward in this program, and it's one I would urge you guys to familiarize yourself with. So right now I could actually get it to where she's just coming out the door right there. And now we get this. Perfect. Unbroken action. There it is. And that's basic sequencing in Final Cut X. Most other nonlinear editing programs have these same basic tools: a selection or move tool, a trim tool, and a blade tool. By learning these, you're going to set yourself up for success in pretty much any nonlinear editing program. Also, by understanding how to mark in and mark out, you're going to make your editing process much faster. Understand these, and you're definitely setting yourself up for success.